commetns. Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero in the back. Young Min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back, relax and vibe with us. Special guests every time here to discuss. Bring your passion, come along for the ride, and don't forget to subscribe, cause...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie Hotspurs Live. Unfortunately today we have a 4-1 loss to talk about in the North London derby. Should I call it the disaster class? I'm not really too sure. But with me to do so and dissect it in more detail, I'm joined by two fabulous guests. So first of all, Ali, it's amazing to have you back on the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm as well as can be expected after yesterday, but yeah, it's nice to be back. Thanks, Hollie.
No, thank you for joining me, and I'm sorry again it's under these sort of circumstances with the game we've got to dissect tonight, but I'm also joined by the amazing Jim. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Yeah, I've gone from that utter stage of anger to... Actually, no, I'm still in that utter stage of frustration and anger, but I'm all right. Yeah, I had a good day, so yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Hollie, and thanks for having me on as always a pleasure.
No, thank you for joining me. Like I say, I just wish we had a bit more of a maybe entertaining game for our perspective to kind of talk about in a bit more detail. But like I say, it's always good therapy on a Monday when we lose to talk it all through. And like I say, welcome to everybody that's tuning in, that's watching live, that's going to be rewatching this as well. It is going to be a good therapy session. So make sure you get your comments and your likes and all that good stuff in the comment section. But first of all, let's kind of jump straight into it. And Ali, I'll come to you first. What was your kind of overall thoughts on the game?
It was bleak. It was just so bleak. I think Frank got it wrong. And listen, I've been a big supporter of Frank. Like, I've championed this guy because there's fans like way before yesterday that weren't convinced and didn't really want him at Spurs. And I'm gonna get shot down for this, but I just think give him time. But yesterday he got it wrong 100%, and I was slightly concerned in his post match because I think he's quite an honest guy as well, and I don't think there's as like much of an ego there. I think he's prepared to hold his hand up when he does get it wrong. We've seen him do that already this season, unfortunately, but he kind of has maintained with this one that it didn't really matter what system or formation he put them out in because they didn't win those duels. That was our downfall, but I think it's because of how he set us up that impacted the mentality almost of the players to just like absorb it all. And you're not going to absorb it all, like whether we like it or not. Arsenal are the best team in the country at the moment. Oh God, I hate myself for saying it. And so, inevitably the attacks were going to come. So I'm frustrated in Frank for doing that in that of all fixtures, basically. So that was my gut reaction.
No, I think that's spot on. I think I kind of echo what you say in terms of he does like this buzzword, Jules. And Jim, that was the kind of thing for me. I didn't kind of like the way we set up, but before we kind of go into that in a bit more detail, what was your kind of overall take on the game itself?
Yeah, I agree with everything Ali said there, to be honest. Someone described it to me as, when a dog's lying on their back and being really submissive, like rub my belly. But that was kind of, yes, we went into a low block and submitted with the idea that, we'll be ultra defensive and hard to break down. But it wasn't in a way that had any like feeling that we were going to be solid or put up a fight. It just felt like it was, let's just concede this one, they're too good for us and it is what it is. And that's kind of that energy, and Ali mentioned it earlier, but that energy kind of just felt like it was across the whole team. I don't think any of those players believed we were going to get something from that game, especially once they scored. I think at the start they maybe thought, hang on a sec, we're 30 minutes into a game, we haven't conceded yet, maybe we could. And as soon as that goal went in, it was kind of like, well, they looked over to the bench and saw all these... By the way, I've got this bit of a gripe with everyone just looking at iPads. Like, can you guys be involved with the game? But they were all just like glued to their little tablets, like toddlers, at a restaurant when they need something to distract them, so their parents can have 2 minutes peace. I was like, it was like none of them were looking at each other like, what do we do next? What do we do next? And it's kind of that group thinking leadership, I think is what you call it, when it's not about, Postecoglou's example was more of a kind of like he stands as the front man, owns his kind of philosophy, and I'm not saying he's the answer because we ended up in 17th in the league and all those things. But when we concede under this current setup, it's like they all run around trying to grab different data sources, and everyone's looking for someone to come up with the idea. And there was just no one to steer that ship back on course in amongst. And fair play to them as well. And I hate to say this, but their atmosphere was great as well, and they made it a really difficult day for us in every aspect, from their fans to their players, and they got the tactics spot on. So it hurts so much to have seen our kind of dive and regression as a club and their rise so simultaneously happen at the same time, which was, it's been challenging for sure.
Definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's the thing for me. And I know we're going to have people that are tuning in, loads of different clubs, and I think this is the biggest thing for me, because coming to you, Ali, I think regardless of the starting 11, etc., there just seemed to be no get up and go for me, even from the off. And I know Jim just mentioned it slightly there as well, but I feel like there's nobody really wanting to take this game by the scruff of the neck. It was kind of like, right, this is how we're going to set up. Hopefully we can kind of hang on for as long as possible.
Yeah, and they absolutely trolled us with that tifo, by the way. Like, but I say that in a jokey way, but I think they set the tone from that. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were like, yeah, here's Sol Campbell at the top of it. Like, it was grim. But I think they set their stall out with that tifo in many respects of, yeah, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, wasn't it? Really, and we didn't. We didn't come and have a go, and I think to me it wasn't just the formation, because as we all know, the back five against PSG actually pretty productive for a lot of that game. It was I still personally would have gone with a back four yesterday over a back five, but it was also the personnel. So I think I agree with that comment earlier about Sarr. I would have played Sarr. I would have started Porro. I love Jed Spence, but I would have started Udogie and Porro. And a lot of people don't like this pivot pairing of Paliniha and Bentancur. I'm obsessed with João Palhinha. I think he's dynamite. Secure that. Get that on a permanent contract, please. But actually, yesterday, I think that's that kind of metal with him and Bentancur that we could have done with. So I didn't have a problem with that, but I would have sat Sarr in front of them, and then I'd have gone Simmons and Kudus. And I get that Moani maybe wasn't quite there. He had his like beard strap or whatever the hell that was because of his fractured cheekbone, bless him. But I still, it's jaw, wasn't it? Was it his jaw or his cheek? Yeah. So I know that maybe he didn't have 90 minutes in him, but I've also never understood this mentality of like starting with a team like that and then having to bring on those players anyway. Like we often see it in cup competitions, don't we? When we play like lesser opposition, which obviously Arsenal are not, unfortunately. And I don't really get that. I think you start with your strongest team, and if Moani's only got 45 in him or 40 or whatever it is he had in him, fine, but start him. Although Richarlison did the unthinkable. Trust Richarlison, by the way, to score the most pointless of spectacular goals. Mm-hmm. Absolutely pointless. But yeah, so I think, I know we don't want to get up on formation stuff, but I do think the personnel made a difference. And that would have been my starting 11 if I was in charge, but I'm not.
It's interesting you say that, I think, because like you say, with the whole kind of PSG game we had, that back three kind of worked well, and I thought having Danso in there, Jim, would have done something. And I'm gonna slightly agree / disagree with you, Ali, because I thought the Palhinha Bentancur combo worked well on paper, but there was just so many times yesterday, Jim, where there was space on our edge of the box. I know the first goal when that Trossard scored, they didn't seem to close down the player quick enough, I felt at times as well.
Yeah, and I was actually looking into this because it just made no sense in my head. It was kind of like the one thing you can do well is show the energy and the aggression in a derby, and that will at least appease the fans to an extent. And when that's there, the manner of the defeat expression starts ringing around the stadium, and terms like unacceptable start coming around and all those bits. And people start accusing the manager of putting their hands in their pockets or chewing their gum wrong. Like everyone just gets really angry at everything they do. They can do no right. And yeah, so I kind of dived into it, and JJ was explaining to me, because he's like he is a professional coach, and he was saying typically when you see that in a game, it's because there is obviously a risk to pressing, like we all know. You push up and you leave space, so your team have to know what they're doing to compensate for your presses, and you have to over time evolve to learn when's the right time to press and when's not. But it kind of screamed of a team that didn't know what they were supposed to do when their teammates did certain things. So they were all kind of like, oh, is it my turn? Is it my turn? I don't know. I'm just not going to risk it. And players as well who are low on confidence. It might be because of the manager. It might be because we've lost all these games recently. But none of them trust themselves to press because they risk being the ones who make the mistake and then get hung out to dry. So it does put that. But it wasn't just the pressing. I don't know about when you guys were watching, but I was amazed that 3 times in that game when we had 3 at the back, an Arsenal player found themselves yards behind all our defenders who are in a really low block. Like, you understand it when you're playing really high line football. You're thinking, well, yeah, you play high line, you get that risk. They're going to try to get behind you. But you're playing a low block. Defenders are playing so deep, and the Arsenal players then have so much time on the ball because you're playing so deep and not pressing them. They can just pick out little smart runs, and they're all standing behind like my turn, waiting for the ball. And it just kept happening. It really was. Yeah, you wouldn't have thought we had 3 centre backs in that game, even when we did. So yeah, it was. I wasn't joyed when I saw them as a starting lineup, but I expected them to be more defensively solid for sure.
Yeah. I think this is the thing, because that Trossard goal was a prime example of what you just said, Jim, in terms of the fact that there was so much space. I mean, for me, Ali, that Trossard goal kind of epitomises like how we kind of set that game up in terms of that space. And it was the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, it was. And what you just said, Jim, was interesting as well, because linked to that, because I think one of the things that I'd felt comforted by with Frank in the early stages of this season was that the players did look much clearer on their roles and responsibilities. They did look like they knew who goes where and, what happens if he does that, and which I think was severely lacking under Ange. And that seems to have all sort of fallen away a bit. Like, not just yesterday. Yesterday was like the culmination of a few weeks, bit of a month and a bit now worth of the, the wheels starting to come off a little bit, I fear. And I think, yeah, that goal just kind of epitomised like the points that you've just made there, Jim, of like how on earth were these, if we had those 3 centre backs, how did that, like, but also the confidence, that was the difference, that Arsenal had the confidence to play that ball. They had the confidence to make those runs and stand our grounds and said, yeah, all right, then I risk the offside, but actually you've got to come and get me, because what if I'm not offside? And I think that was the biggest difference for me yesterday, was the psychological safety of a team that is flying, absolutely flying, and then the lack of psychological safety with a team that is still trying to pick itself up. And, I know Frank has had stick today for his, you've got to remember we finished 17th last season. But we did finish 17th last season, and Ange didn't even win the final playing Ange ball. Like, so, like, he abandoned his own philosophies to win this trophy, and his philosophies got us to 17th in the league. And I would argue, if Southampton hadn't been so awful, we could have danced with relegation there as well. So this team is still trying to rebuild itself. This is a squad that a manager, as ever, has inherited, not selected. So as bad as it was yesterday, I do think that I still think I think you should give him the season. And I saw some things on social media, and I know social media is just a bit of a mess, but like people saying, oh, they'd be surprised if he's still there at Christmas. Like, what? But the challenge I put, because I'm trying not to pay attention to the chat because my brain will get too distracted. The challenge I put to people that feel that way is, who then? And how long do you give him? Because otherwise, I think this has been the problem effectively since Poch went. It's just a revolving door now. But anyway, sorry, I went slightly off topic of your question. But yeah, I think that goal epitomised quite a few things that have been going wrong recently, not just yesterday.
No, I mean, it makes a good valid point as well, Ali, because I think that's the thing, because I think I am a little bit torn. I think I can see what we want to try and achieve, but I just can't excuse a performance like that in the North London derby. And I think that is a lot of different things at the moment at the club. I mean, Jim, for you, I think it is mad to be thinking that it needs to go out the door. I just know that the pressure is going to be piled on a lot, especially with this PSG game and the Fulham game coming up thick and fast.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm finding myself saying the same things as you. Like obviously, I know you both from the podcast. I don't know you behind the scenes. We've all got our personalities who we probably put on show to those we spend our free time with that we don't want to put on a camera. But you both seem very level-headed on the calmer side of things. But we're all, even though we're all going, come on, like, think sensible here. Like, it's got to be at least a season. We can't be those like the orcs on the internet who just like hound people out after a few months. But at the same time, we're all kind of like, you know, I'm sure in the back of our heads we've thought, well, what if who would come in? And we've started to question that, who would come in? And the fact there isn't anyone is almost the reason why we're thinking, well, this would be mad to move on. And here comes my son to interrupt.
Buddy, he's gutted as well.
But yeah,
the same way.
Well, I said to him, do you know what that is? The trophy, Europa League trophy I got there, and he went, no. I said, what team do you support? And he said Plodenham. So there you go. Support Plodenham. Right. But but I still find we've got this deep lying kind of thing that we're almost scared to say out loud that there is doubts there. That there is doubts, and there is a part of us that says, even though we know it's crazy, we can see a world where he doesn't make the end of the season. And not that we agree with that happening, but if, just say, you know, Oliver Glasner and Crystal Palace have the standoff on his contract, just say they had a massive fallout in January and Spurs had just lost to the next game against PSG, had another poor home performance against Fulham, and then Frank's been beaten by his old club Brentford, and we're in January 5th, I think the majority of the fan base would be saying, go get him. I'm not doing this anymore. Which feels absolutely crazy to be saying that, and I'm not even saying that would be the right thing to do. But that there's just this reality that's there. And I've seen the polls, and it's the internet, like Ali said earlier, so you can't take it all too seriously. But the polls are showing that over half the fan base are voting for, I've got doubts, but maybe give him the season, or I want him gone. So only about 40% of the fans are staunchly saying, retain Frank. And that's concerning for me because the fans do have a big influence. And even Ange, when he was 17th, he probably had about 40% of the fan base. I think we could be 20th, and those people would still be saying, I refuse to to acknowledge that it's time to move on. He's got to stay. But I just don't feel like Frank's motivated the fan base behind a vision yet. That's gotten us, you know, dogmatic about him being the guy. And that's working against him.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think that's the problem. I think we go back to that Paliniha and Bentancur kind of combo again, Ali. It's just the lack of creativity. I know that he's got players out with Decky, etc., but yesterday it would have been potentially nice to see Bergvall thrown into the mix. I know he's potentially just come back from injury, but we've got those creative players on the pitch, and you think to yourself, just let them have a go. It's a North London derby. Let them express themselves. And it feels like, although Frank says that he wants to do risks, he wants to do this and that, I haven't really seen it.
Yeah, he's not. It's all talk at the moment and no trousers, isn't it? Like he came in saying, I think managers do that a lot though. I think that's part of the PR, isn't it? And the media team, like, give them these sound bites because then you automatically get the fans on board, especially Spurs fans that, you know, love creative attacking football. And he had to win them round, and some of them clearly he hasn't won round, but he had a job in that anyway because we knew what he was like from Brentford. But I think I think that was clearly what was missing yesterday. And that's what everyone's so upset about. And I'm included in that. Like, as much as I still want him to have a chance, like, you don't do that against Arsenal. Like, come on, mate. Like, this is the fixture. And I think that leads me back to my point around psychological safety, though. Like, I think the way he set us up made that team think, oh, he doesn't want us to go for this. He wants us to sort of absorb what we can and make the best of it. And I mean, that clearly isn't what he would have said to them, but there was something about that setup that made them play like that, and he needs to know that about the players. He needs to know how that translates to them and how that makes them feel. And I think, yes, we're missing key players. I do think that is an important point, not just that we're missing key players, but we don't have, like, if we're brutally honest, we don't have the strength in depth or the quality of players that some of these other clubs do. Like, as much as I love these players because they're ours, they're not getting into those other teams, a lot of them. Like, some of them definitely, like Mickey is a unicorn, so I don't know anyone that wouldn't play it, for example. But attacking wise, like, yeah, we're looking to strengthen there. Richarlison, to me, for all of his ridiculous shot yesterday, as I said last time I was on the pod, like, I think that's a waste of an attacking like position. And I would have played Muani, or I would have just been more creative up top with other players. Like I said, I would have started Simmons with Kudus. But I just, he didn't, for whatever reason, he didn't instill in them, because those players would have known what this derby meant as well, even if it was for the first time for some of them. They live football. They know what it means. But something went wrong there yesterday, and I think Frank is responsible for that. I don't think it was the play. I mean, obviously the players are the ones on the pitch, but I think they were hampered by their manager. And it was just depressing, because the last thing you want in a North London derby is to come away thinking we didn't even try. That's what's humiliating about it, is that, like Jim said at the beginning, like, it's just like dogs just rolling over and being like, yeah, go on then.
No, 100%. And I think, go on, Jim.
I was going to say, like, I like the term, I know Ali's used it a couple of times now, psychological safety. If we're perceiving it as the same thing, Ali, that it's kind of like that, being in an environment where you know you can make mistakes and try without consequence, that puts you off feeling safe to do so.
Yeah.
And I feel like that atmosphere doesn't exist within the Spurs camp at the moment, or appears not to. But it's strange, because I don't see Frank as a nasty authoritarian type leader who's going to grill these players for making mistakes, yet they all seem so fearful of trying things. And your comments around the players, yeah, I, again, wholeheartedly agree. It's like, we know our squad's not as good as City's or Liverpool's. Yeah, I get that. Like, not many of our players would get in their sides, but they're a hell of a lot better than where we're playing at. And there's a lot of stuff on social media of just go get a left winger and a striker, and that's what we need to do. That'll kind of fix things for Frank. And I just don't see that. I'm sure you're going to play less bad football in a failing system with better players, but you're still playing bad football in a failing system. So upgrading Richarlison and Odegaard, great. It will make us slightly less bad, but we're not suddenly going to be performing like a top four side. The system is 90% of our problem at the moment, in my personal view. At least 80% of our problems are anyway in the tactics at the moment, and I'm not saying that can't be utterly fixed. And all these coaches at any sport, if you make it to the top level of your sport and you're the top 0.1%, you haven't got there by refusing to adapt, refusing to learn, refusing to change, and refusing to take on feedback as an individual, unless you're a complete one-off where you've got some physical or mental attributes that are just nature. But most people have worked their way there by changing and learning. And I think the reason we cling on to giving Frank more time, it's like, well, let's give him a chance to do that. Let's give him a chance to acknowledge where it's not working. But then again, the paranoia creeps in when you listen to the press conferences. It's almost like we're seeing something and screaming at him like, please don't keep doing that double pivot in midfield, this reactive approach, all these kind of things. And he just doesn't acknowledge them as part of the problem. He thinks other things aren't allowing those things to work. And we're just like, oh, no, please don't keep going down this hole. Please. We want you to work so much. You're such a lovely person, and you're so smart and intelligent, and we need this to work with you.
I don't know whether it's his. I know lots of people have said it before. Obviously, the things he clings on to in these duels that he keeps using as that buzzword in terms of our set pieces as well, Ali. I don't know, because obviously lots of people in the chat are saying, and lots of people have this kind of argument as well, that maybe the job is a bit too big for his boots. But kind of going off of what Jim said, I'm trying to keep it positive. I know it's not a very positive show, but kind of going off what Jim said, like maybe giving him the time to kind of be able to adapt, because it is quite a big jump for him in some respects. But we've got him here because we know that he can eventually adapt. We've seen him do it at Brentford. Yes, okay, no disrespect to Brentford, but they're not Tottenham. But I don't know if you can kind of see what route I'm trying to go down, Ali.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one as well. And like someone who's coached, I coached for the best part of 10 years, obviously nowhere near that level, but I did coach in academy. So I have coached in high performance environments. Yes, it was kids, but it's still ruthless. Parents, close your ears. Actually, it's the parents that are worse. But anyway, like as a coach, I think I always naturally empathize with other coaches. And I think like the fan in me is like, yeah, I want it yesterday. But the coach in me is like, it doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work like that for anyone. And I think we'd be minded to remember that. Like no coach in history has just gone in and gone bang. I mean, maybe Ange wins something in his second season, great. But like, to be consistently successful takes time. And as much as it pains me, like Arteta is a really good example of that. Like Arsenal fans wanted him gone at the beginning. Like they didn't have any patience for him. They weren't interested. There are still Arsenal fans now that can't be doing with him because, they still haven't won the league. But so I think, coaches talk about projects a lot and these are projects and they take time, and he's come in, he's inherited this squad. He didn't choose this squad. Then it's about how the club is run and if he's allowed to purchase maybe some of the players that fit with his project better than just the ones he's inherited from someone else's project. There's so many moving parts to all of these things, aren't there? And I just think I personally don't think the job is too big for him because I think he's a very intelligent person, and I think he's quite academic. Like I think he's a learner. And I think he absorbs information all the time. And we might not always see and hear what we want from him in press conferences and stuff like that. But he strikes me as the sort of guy that when he goes to sleep at night, he's like, you know what, I got that wrong. Like, do you know what I mean? Where he's like, oh, I could probably do better with that. And so I know a lot of people think, oh, he came from Brentford and, like that's not, you're in the big leagues now. But I also think like, whilst it's important to be ambitious, it is also important to be realistic. And Spurs fans, you're going to like just brace yourself for this. We're not there yet. I know we want to be this like solid top 4 club, but we're not there yet. And so actually, I would argue maybe Frank is the perfect candidate to help get us there. In the same way that Gareth Southgate, I don't think was ever going to win something big for England, but he was the perfect guy to get them out of the mess they were in and operating as a cohesive team again. And I think Frank could like perform that for us basically, but he's got to be given the chance to do it.
No, it's a great perspective. I think that's the thing. I think at the moment we're all very, I know a lot of the chat are, and I get it. I am frustrated as well.
I'm ignoring it.
I think I might start doing it. No, but it is true. Like I get it. Lots of people have lots of different opinions, and that's why we all love football. And it is frustrating because we love this club and we want the club to do well. But I think it just kind of goes back to the kind of investment we've had, Jim. And I'm hoping in January that does change, because I know Ali's mentioned obviously getting players in that's what Frank wants, and I think at the moment we haven't really had that. And obviously it kind of spin it back into the game that happened on Sunday. Obviously bottom player that we all kind of wanted to get, and I know there was lots of different factors behind it, the fact that he was an Arsenal fan, etc., was Eze. Was a prime example of someone that we could go out there, go and get, put our money where our mouth is, and bring him to Spurs. So we didn't quite do that, but for you, I keep thinking I'm going around in circles, sorry Jim, but for you, obviously Eze being the man that's got the hat-trick as well, the first one in so many years in a North London derby, just kind of pains that little bit more as well.
Yeah, I don't think Eze got a hat-trick because he's a better player than Siemens. I think he got a hat-trick because he's playing in a significantly better side, everything working around him. As a result, you have loads of space, and you're playing against a side sitting back really deep and saying, have the ball as long as you like, but I'm not going to let you within 8 yards of my goal. And it's like, okay, well, watch me. I'm a Premier League footballer. I can do things from further than 12 yards out. it's not hard for me. So and he really did, and he is a very good footballer. But I don't think he's like people are acting like, if we had him, we'd have got the hat trick. We've broken the record twice, and this underlying data we can't hide from it. I'm not like a massive XG fan because the reality is if you dribbled the ball to an empty goal stood on the halfway line with your foot over it, it wouldn't count as single XG because you didn't take the shot. Or perfect cross into an open goal doesn't count as an XG because there's no shot there. And some teams' styles of play create more of those chances. But when you have the lowest XG in your history 3 times in a season, you can't ignore that. And when the eye test is saying we shouldn't be winning the games when we are, this is going to revert back to type, and it starts reverting back to type, you can't ignore that and just pretend it's not happening. So I just think any forward player at the moment in this system isn't going to flourish. And I'm not sure, since the stadium opened, we've spent an average net spend between 110 and 120 million net on transfers a season. The wages, all to be considered with that, but we won't be bottom of the wage bill anymore. Muani and Paliniha are on big wages, Romero's got a pay rise, Kudus is on big wages. That number is going to be going up, and a lot of these younger players we've signed are getting pay rise as well. So we're definitely creeping up the wages to revenue ratio now. A lot. And has Frank got his players? I think any manager needs at least 3 summer windows to build their squad when they're given that kind of money. But if you gave him all the money in the world, I don't think he'd be able to upgrade Van der Ven or Romero. I think you'd struggle to find better than Porro and Udogie and Spence. And then he chose Paliniha. He chose Kudus. He chose Muani. These are his signings. So I don't think the squad is like he's walked into a squad that's terrible for the way he wants to play and do things, even though it's not perfect and it's 2 or 3 players short. So I think there's a balance there of the players he's brought in. I think Paliniha's been brilliant, and we said that at the start. But Kudus for me has been getting worse every game. He started off so exciting, and every game he's gotten a little bit more of an influence on the game. And I see that about other players. I think Romero's just becoming less and less effective in games. Porro's lost his place and his way a bit. Spence isn't the same Spence we were joking about Ballon d'Or contention last year. I don't know, just a lot of players seem to have lost their spark. I don't know if it's just that. I don't know if they need that almost like, that Harry Redknapp style approach of kind of forget tactics, they're a load of nonsense. Get out there and express yourselves. I'm not sure saying we should do that, but I'm thinking Frank would benefit from a little bit of that. Training's cancelled, guys. No tactics today. Just I want to see you pulling off Rabonas and having fun out there. And I think they'd all benefit from that mentally as well.
I think the whole point of players kind of losing their spark as well, Ali, I think it's because those players that have been standout at the start of the season towards the end of last season, because they've done it all. And I feel like Kudus at the start of the season we relied on so heavily for him to do the business. And I think now it's kind of wearing off a much because obviously I'm not a professional footballer, but I would think to myself, if I'm having to put the card graft in, week out, and my other players around me aren't doing the same, why would I bother, if that makes sense? That's very dumbed down and simple, but that's kind of my thought process behind it.
Yeah, I think what also happens as well is that the opposition works you out, right? And we've been so blatant about going, give it Kudus and he'll do some magic and create something for us, which he is more than capable of doing, by the way. I do rate him. But because we sort of, that was a bit of a hope and a prayer after a while, wasn't it? And then so the opposition's gone, right, we'll shut him down. So it's probably, I haven't watched him closely enough, but I wouldn't be surprised if the opposition have put 2 players on him instead of 1. They've closed him down more quickly, all of that stuff. So and then as a creative player, there's nothing more frustrating than that because you're just I want to do my stuff. So I think and I take Jim's point as well on the players and Paliniha, I stand by. I think that's smart. That's smart signing. But I guess when I say he inherited the squad, in the large part he inherited the players, for the majority of them, but he's also inherited all the problems that came with it, right? And the mentality and just the whatever that was for 2 seasons and prior as well. These aren't new problems that we're witnessing at Spurs, and I think that's where the frustration comes from the fan base as well, is that we know how this story ends And last season was an anomaly that it happened to end with silverware. But for the rest of the time, it ends in a mess. And I think, creative players like Kudus, like Simmons, who I agree with you completely, Jim, like he's a baller. And I'm just glad he's let his hair out, because I think, like, I think there's something in that about going, right, let me just be free. And that's another reason why I was disappointed to see him not start yesterday, because he had such a brilliant international break. It's like, yeah, go with that momentum. But yeah, I think these creative players particularly, I'm worried that Frank's focus on structure and discipline and shoring up that defence, which Lord knows needed it, and so I'm glad he did it, but I almost feel like he became maybe too fixated on that, and then it's impacted this attacking sort of license for all players, not just the attacking players, but for the whole team to go, okay, let's go for it then. And so I think that's partly what may have happened as well, is that not meaning to, but I think his structure and his discipline might have upset, like, the freedom to think, oh, I'm allowed to go for this. And I think that's the issue we're seeing with the attack at the moment.
I think you're right. So we're so pinned in. And I know that we didn't necessarily have the players on the pitch at the time to be able to create things like that, just because of how good, sadly, Arsenal were. But I think that's just the most frustrating thing for me, is just we needed to turn up, we didn't bother, and we kind of constricted that ability to be able to have that bit of flair that you shouldn't necessarily need to be up for in a North London derby. But like you said, maybe maybe Frank's kind of restrictiveness has kind of brought that kind of on. And obviously, that game, I'm fed up talking about it now, because I do feel like we're going round and round in a circle. So we will move on. And I know everybody in the chat, I do appreciate you all being in there. But there is a lot going on, and I know we're all very, very angry and frustrated about it. But I would say to you, I feel like it will get a bit better, hopefully, fingers crossed. But we are going to move on, because obviously we have got PSG. I don't know if it's going to get better actually this week coming up. But Jim, for you, obviously PSG, then Fulham. It's going to be a very, I want to say interesting week, but I think that's not the right word, to be honest with you.
And we'll spin into some of the positive things at the moment, and that is the Champions League. Our European form is fantastic. Both home and away, it's actually really good. So there's a lot to cling on to there. European heritage as Tottenham, I think that's the one thing we've had over our neighbours for a long time. No matter what they did domestically, we always have those European Cups. And look, so it always leaves me with a bit of confidence in Europe that we will perform better than we do domestically. And we've already played PSG once. I thought actually that was one of Frank's, well, it was his first game. It was one of his best performances for us. He did really well, and I think the players will be really motivated for that, because even ones that maybe are having their heads drop a little bit in the league because there's less to play for this season for them, they all, cup competitions are massive for players, and I think they'll be much more motivated for that game. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. And then you've got Fulham at home. That's just such an opportunity for Thomas Frank to win everyone all back over. I think if you see fight against PSG and a convincing home win against Fulham, we'll look back on this and say, oh my gosh, we really did melt down over the top reactions back then, didn't we? That was crazy, amazing what losses to Chelsea and Arsenal can do to you when they happen in quick succession. But obviously, like there's the paranoia, isn't there, that you lose to PSG and another bad home performance, Newcastle aways after that, and they're what we are to Man City, they are to us in many ways, and then you can just imagine the horror. I'm sorry to bring this up, but I just look at the pitch like, this couldn't be the script, then it's Brentford at home. And you just thought, oh no, imagine if. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to go there. But I think the positives are, I think we've got really opportunity to do well in Europe, go far in that competition this year. We've got fantastic young players that we'll get to see playing and getting minutes again in Europe. And I think some of them aren't on the bench because of their age or ability, really. It's just a rotation thing. They're, the likes of Bergvall, he's back from his concussion now. I want to see him playing. What a player he was under us last year. When we lost him to injury, it was like, it felt like that was a massive blow to our chances in the final. So to get those players back as well, and Frank, to be fair, just 2 weeks ago had half the squad out injured. Now everyone's back fit apart from 3 players. they're fit, but they're not really, really fit. You know what I mean? They have to go through 4 or 5 games first until they're really there. So, yeah, let's see if he's got the options to utilise it now and bring things back on course against PSG. And I'm going to be optimistic and think we'll get a point out of that game.
I mean, talking about our home form, at least this one's away. Hey, Ali.
Oh my gosh! I mean, wait, which one's away? PSG at home, no?
I think we're away.
I thought it was away.
Yeah, away.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I'm still caught up on Woolwich, which I shouldn't be. They're not even from North London. Come on, guys. Yeah, PSG. Right, so away. Good, check. Europe, check. Team we've played recently and, didn't embarrass ourselves against. Check. So, yeah, I think also maybe there's, I don't mean to bang on, you can tell I wish I'd have done psychology in a past life, right? And I don't mean to bang on about this too much, but I think in elite sport, it makes such a difference. And I wonder if there's something about, no one expects us to win the Champions League. Like, let's be serious. And I wonder if there's a freedom in that for these lads that are just like, it's the Champions League. Like, that's so exciting as a professional footballer, to get to go and play like with the big boys. And I know we want to be the big boys, but we're not yet. And so I think they're almost, it's a bit like when a youth player gets to play for the first team for the first time, or they make their senior debut for England or whatever, and there's no fear because they're like, I'm just happy to be here. And I wonder if there's a freedom with Frank as well. Frank's never coached Champions League football, where they're just like, let's just go and give it a go. And I think that's working really well for us at the moment because we're playing with a freedom, and we're unbeaten so far in this competition. And I think it will be tough because it's PSG. They're not a joke. But yeah, you've got to remain optimistic. Otherwise, why do we even bother? But I think the Fulham one, which is at home, right? Yeah. The Fulham one is almost becoming a bit of a must-win game now because these are the turning points in our domestic season. And as you say, like, that momentum is building now against Frank, and he's got some points to prove now, as do his players. So that one almost feels more nervy because we should beat Fulham. Whereas I'm not in a defeatist way, but I'm not expecting us to beat PSG. And then we won't look as far ahead to Brentford because that's just that feels like it's scripted already, doesn't it? So we won't go there. We'll see where we're at after these two.
Yeah, I don't think my brain or my heart or my head can take that, to be honest with you. It is going to be a very I would say stressful week because, like I say, I feel like it's a good point you make, Ali, in terms of psychology again, in terms of the fact that these players, they have still got a point to prove because it's the Champions League. They want to do well in it, but they haven't got that restrictiveness. Whereas in the Premier League, you've got this on your back. Oh, you finished 17th last season. You're not playing very well. You might be back down there again soon. So I do kind of get that in that respect. But Jim, I'm going to come to you as well. Just to quickly wrap up, obviously, on that Fulham game. There is no Romero for that one because obviously he got a yellow card in the North London derby. So again, that's going to be another headache for kind of Frank to kind of work with how he's going to set his kind of team up. But for you, how do you see that one being set up, and how do you see it going down?
Well, look, and just get Fulham, not PSG, yeah, just to be clear. Yeah, just because two extremely different approaches. I think this is like he has to win. He could win over the whole supporter base if he just started with, going back to just Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Porro, or Spence, depending on who your favourite one is up to. The Bentancur Paliniha thing is controversial. But anyway, what I'm saying is start Siemens as well. And you've got Muani back fit, so Muani would start up front, wouldn't he? Kudus on the right wing. I think you just got to go back to just playing a way in which we could reminisce and say, under Poch we used to set up like this. It was like we're at home and we're here to play a defined style of play. And Thomas Frank's gone to the dressing room and said, folks, this time we're not going to set up this way because it's Fulham. We're going to play our way. And our way is we're going to have most of the ball. You're going to express yourselves. You're going to attack. Paliniha is going to come back and break up play. And, you know, Romero, I want you to express that brilliant passing ability you've got, because we need that creativity coming through the midfield again. Porro, use that right foot of yours. Allow Kudus to get forward and whip in balls to him. Odeber, you're a brilliant young player. Don't worry if you lose the ball, mate. I want you to go out there and dribble at people. Go on, do it. You can do it. Muani, you play for PSG. You're, you know, one of the world's biggest talents, and you've got a chance to reignite your career with us. I want you to prove them all wrong. I want that kind of experience, not, right, everyone in the TV room. For the next 3 hours, we're going to be looking at what Fulham do really well. I'm going to teach you how to stop them doing it. Like, can we just forget about Fulham for 5 minutes and just do what Tottenham want to do? And even if we lost that game, but we had 10 shots and 5 of them on target, people would go, that's a bit better. We are moving in the right direction. There's a few green shoots I can hold on to. That XG of 0.001 is a thing of the past. We're actually, you know, back on track, and let's give this guy better players to make this work and give him some time to make it work. But at the moment, people don't have that patience, because if he doesn't do that, people will say, doesn't matter if you played Messi or Johnson, it's no difference when you set up like that. And so it's there. Yeah, that's my answer.
No, I like it, and it's a true one, because the thing was, Ali, when we were winning away, I know Arsenal's an anomaly, etc., but when we were winning away, it was fine. It was like, oh, okay, if we don't play great at home, it's fine, because I know we might get something away. Whereas now we need to get back into that mentality of, no, you'll come into our gaff, sit down, this is how we're playing. And I think that is a big thing from Jim. I mean, Ali, just to finish it all off, for you, this Fulham game, I know we've mentioned that it's the big one, but are you in the same kind of boat as Jim? Just go and play our way, because we haven't seen it in a very long time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what a rallying cry from Jim there. Like, I'm ready to put my boots on and go and play for Tottenham Hotspur if they'll have me. But yeah, I agree. I think if is it Romero that can't?
Oh, he's suspended. Yeah.
So I guess you stick Danso in, right? Like, I actually think Big Kev, come on with the throw in. Like, it will cause damage, it will. But I actually think he's pretty solid, Danso, and I think he actually works better in that in a 4 than the 5 or 3 with the wingers or whatever. I think he works better as a replacement, is what I'm saying, rather than added, like, slotted in. So I don't. Like, last season, that would have been like, the end of the world if like one of Romero or Mickey couldn't play. But I think Danso can do a job there. And then I think the rest of the lineup is the lineup I gave you earlier, that should have started yesterday, in my humble opinion. But I 100% agree with Jim. Like, we're going to play like Tottenham. This is how Tottenham play. The game is about glory. Like, Frank needs to watch that video. Like, he needs to watch the video that gets played at the beginning of every home game, because, like, this is Tottenham Hotspur, buddy. And I agree. I think this is what I mean. Like, sometimes your brain can be your own worst enemy, right? And I think he is very astute and very intelligent. But as a result, it's sort of, he's almost got too caught up in analysing the opposition and trying to counter their strengths instead of expressing ours. And so I 100% agree with Jim. Like, we've just got to go at them, and we need to be, he of all people, Frank needs us to beat Fulham. So he needs to think about how best we can do that. And it is not by fixating on Fulham.
100%. I mean, hopefully we have a better week this week, because I don't think my brain can take any more of what I saw at the weekend. I hope that he has seen the light and he is going to change the way he kind of set things up at times, because I can't do that again. Especially, obviously, with my NFL team losing the derby as well yesterday. So it was not a happy day for me. But I want to say thank you to both of you joining me tonight. I know we didn't really dissect parts of the game in detail, but I think it was just nice to get everything off my chest. And thank you to everybody that has also been in the chat. I know you have been spamming loads of things in there, and we do get it. We are frustrated as well. It's just sometimes you just got to let us sit down, breathe, and kind of take it all in. But like I say, thank you to both of you for joining me tonight. We'll go around the table, we'll say our goodbyes. So Ali, thank you once again for joining me. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Yeah, no, thank you. That felt like the most lovely group therapy, much needed. So I'm Coach Ali on Instagram and TikTok, And then I am the fan writer for Spurs for BBC Sport. So if you were half interested in anything I said, you'll see most of it regurgitated on the Sports app tomorrow on the Spurs page. And then also I'm co-founder and co-chair of Women of the Lane, which is Tottenham Hotspur's first ever official supporters association for women who support the men's team. So if there's any women watching this that want to get involved in that, I'm sure Hollie will drop a link in there for us. Thank you.
Defo, 100%. Like I say, thank you again, Ali. And Jim, it's been amazing to have you on as well, my friend. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of them really, Spotify. The videos are now on Spotify as well. So yeah, any of them. The long form content's on YouTube and Spotify, and we've just started doing Instagram and TikTok mini chop ups, and I'm on X as well. So yeah, Jim OhSoSpurs or OhSoSpurs on there. So yeah, every platform, I guess you can find us there. Yeah, and thanks for having me, Hollie. It's always a pleasure, and yeah, it's a great show to be on. And Ali, it's been an absolute privilege meeting you as well.
You too.
Yeah, your background sounds super interesting. More does this go on, so I'm going to be definitely checking out your articles as well.
Thank you.
Nice. No, like I say, thank you both for joining me. And like I say, thank you to everybody that's been in the chat, that's rewatching this, liking it, and all of that good stuff. Like I say, I do appreciate you all being part of the journey, because we are all Spurs fans. It's great to have loads of different opinions. So I do really, really appreciate it. And I guess that kind of leads me to say, hopefully see you all back here next week, Monday. We'll have some more guests on the channel to hopefully dissect, fingers crossed, a win against Fulham, because I can't have more therapy sessions like I did last season. That was rough. But like I say, until next time, come on, you Spurs.